Three words that describe my dad.
Outspoken, for better or for worse, knowledgeable and professional.
He loved computers. He loved racquetball. And on top of that, he was at the University of Scranton all the time.
My father was extremely passionate about everything he did, including helping his kids, including being a teacher, including being a family man.
Definitely hardworking, very driven, and very focused. He loved teaching at the University of Scranton. It was definitely his life, along with his family. He gave it his all, as what you can see in what he's brought to the school. He always told me about math. The thing that kind of hooked him was anything regarding science, whether it be biology, physics, chemistry. My dad could always make a math connection. Can't happen without math.
He always had stories and analogies. He was like, if you want to be a doctor, you go to medical school. If you want to become a lawyer, you go to law school. If you want a job, you major in math.
He was a lifetime learner. He always wanted to know more. He was always on a quest for knowledge. When I was in grade school, he took us here to see a room full of a big computer, which probably didn't have the memory of one little phone does now. So obviously he had to evolve with the times.
My dad was always a very avid reader. I remember always he'd get in the mail, or he'd have with him books on computer science or some sort of periodicals regarding computer science. And then we had a map of the United States, and it was red pins in all the different locations that he'd go to seminars. He definitely kept ahead of the curve.
When he first started in the computer science department, and the University of Scranton sent him for his doctorate, he used to say that he was one of fewer than 10 people in maybe the Northeast that had that doctorate. And I think that kind of motivated him to spread that knowledge to the students that came through the university.
He wrote textbooks. He belonged to almost any computer science club or organization there was across the United States.
He was always reading books and reviewing books and stuff like that. And I think doing reviews on technical documentation and going out to schools to help with their accreditation kind of kept him on the edge of those things. In computers, things change almost daily. And I think he acknowledged that. He knew he had to adapt to it to be successful and stay up on the different aspects of computer science and languages and programming. I think it was really reading and self-education that kept him on the cutting edge of that.
My dad definitely enjoyed teaching at the university. He made time for his students all the time, every day, not only with classes, but he always had a ton of office hours. He would always make special appointments if someone couldn't make the office hours.
He was extremely passionate about teaching, and he really wanted the best for his students, and he really wanted the best for the University of Scranton. When a student had a success and got a good job, he had the success.
Watching the news with my dad, there'd be something on related to computers or some company, and my dad would say, "Oh yeah, I taught him," or "I taught her." So he'd always be proud of that. He loved the faculty here. He had a lot of good friends.
It was a second home for him, really. I mean, he would come to the University of Scranton every day, whether it was to play racquetball, to meet with a student, to meet with faculty, to have a staff meeting. He had such pride in the things that he was able to accomplish here with the department and eventually the grad school. Even after retirement, he would come back and help with the counseling center and stuff like that. It was just part of who he evolved to be.
This was his life. This was his hobby. This was his part-time job. This was his career. This was everything that you think about of your life. My father's was right here at the University of Scranton. He loved this place.
How would he feel about the scholarship? So he used to tell a story. He had a grant to work up in Cambridge, Massachusetts for a summer, and he was walking around Harvard Square, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go into the bookstore, Harvard's bookstore," and he walks through and he's like, "Oh, I wonder what Harvard is using for these different classes." Well, he gets to the math and computer science section and he sees that his book is there for data structures. And he always used that story as like his, you know, one of his biggest accomplishments. Well, I think this would be his crowning accomplishment.
We hope it'll help some people pick computer science as a focus of their education, bring some new talent to the area maybe. Also maybe bring local people who might be interested in computers to the University of Scranton.
I would love to see our students in Lackawanna County, anyone that wants to attend the University of Scranton, I'd love to see them pursue computer science and love education and love learning as much as my dad did. I think he would be so happy to know that maybe somebody who couldn't would be able to come to the school that he loved and put 55 plus years of his life into. It would just be great.
So if there were 12,000 or plus people who've gone through the computer science department, chances are high that you had my dad. And chances are probably high that you have a memory of him in some class, in the hallways, playing racquetball. And if you had a memory like that, or if he impacted your career in one way or another, maybe you can donate to help someone else with the University of Scranton Computer Science Department.
When he first started, this place was just a few buildings, and I know that my dad had a lot to do with a lot of the other buildings that you see around here.
But I know he was super happy here. I mean, he kept this job. Think about it. He kept this job for his entire life. He really must have enjoyed it, because who would have worked till they were almost 80 unless they loved the place they worked at? And I just hope that maybe somebody else has a good memory with them too, because he really enjoyed what he did. It would be wonderful to see this scholarship flourish. So it would be great for anyone to make any kind of donation possible. Thank you.